Every single year when Tisha Bav comes, I try to cry. I try to feel the pain of our exile. I try to feel the pain of what it means that we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. And every single year, I find it extremely difficult to connect with. Because when I think about it, I was born in the 1980s, and most of my childhood was in the 90s. And things were pretty good. Life was simple and happy, and the world as a whole was pretty stable. Of course, in 2001, everything changed with 9/11 and the Intifada, and our nation was traumatized. But if I'm being honest, other than the security policies at the airport and TSA, my life did not change all that much. Life continued to march on smoothly. And while there was a terrible economic downturn in 2008, that coincided perfectly with when I began rabbinical school, and I was pretty much immune from all of it. So perhaps it makes sense that it has been so hard for me to muster the tears we are meant to cry on Tisha B'Av, on the day we mourn the destruction of our holy temple and our exile that we find ourselves in. Because for almost my 40 years on this earth, they've been filled with an overall sense of stability and prosperity for humanity. And then everything changed this past Simchas Torah on October 7th, when our people suffered the worst pogrom since the Holocaust. Jews naturally expected to see the support and companionship of their non-Jewish peers, many times the same peers that the Jews themselves marched alongside for their own rights. But oftentimes that support was nowhere to be found. And instead, tens of thousands of people filled city streets and squares across the world, chanting to globalize the Intifada. Blood libels began to resurface, the kind that we read about in textbooks, with the Jewish state being accused of being baby killers, hospital bombers, and committers of genocide. In Times Square, after the head terrorist Hania was sent to the depths of hell by the Mossad, there were masses gathering publicly mourning his death, flying Hamas flags and burning American ones. I didn't even yet mention the encampments going on campuses across the world, in which a Jew who attended Columbia that we interviewed on this podcast this past year told us that she felt unsafe and dehumanized. And we ask ourselves, are we living in 2024 or 1934? And then we ask ourselves another question. Are we safe? If yes, for how long? And if not, where could we go? Maybe we wonder if we can just go north of the border. In Montreal, on road signs, one reads the messages, quote, "Free Palestine, escalate now, and globalize the Intifada." So maybe that's not a great idea. Maybe we can go to another English-speaking country like the UK. But a report from a few days ago, as reported from the BBC, indicates that anti-Semitic incidents have reached an all-time high in the UK since reporting began. France seems nice. The Olympics were just there. Well, 1 month ago, a 12-year-old girl was brutally violated. And this is a country that reported an average of 4 anti-Semitic acts a day, which is up over 300% from 1 year ago. Maybe South Africa. There, they are so anti-Israel that they have said they will arrest any South Africans who have served in the Jewish army. Maybe we think Latin America. Well, according to an American official, quote, "There's a tsunami of anti-Semitism that's on the rise there." In Brazil, anti-Semitic acts have risen 1,000% since October 7th. I could go on and on and on, but I think we get the idea. But all of this begs the question, if necessary, where would we go? Where could we go and truly be safe and secure? Of course, many of us would answer Israel. And that probably is the correct answer. It's probably the place where we should be. But we still cannot deny the obvious reality that in the absence of our temple, in the absence of Mashiach, our Messiah, at the end of the day, we are still vulnerable and not fully safe anywhere in the world. While Israel clearly is an optimal place for a Jew to be, it is surrounded by neighbors who would literally do anything for the chance to murder Jews. As I say these words right now, there's rockets and missiles pointed at Israel from all over the Middle East. We pray that our brothers and sisters be kept safe at this vulnerable time. And as we heard the horrific account of civilians who broke into Israel on October 7th, they were euphorically bragging to their parents how they murdered Jews. Yes, of course, Israel is an optimal place for us, but we cannot forget that while we are still in Galus, while our people are collectively still in exile, spiritual exile, and while the temple is still in ruins, we are still in peril, even there. So for the first time in my life, in 2024, at age 39, I think I understand what Galus really means. I finally get that despite the illusion of security and stability, it is just that, an illusion. I finally long for the security that Mashiach would bring, that our Beis HaMikdash, our holy temple, could bring, when we can truly feel safe and secure. And I finally can properly be able to feel the pain and to cry for its absence. So the question is, what can we do? What can all of us do? Feel so helpless. What can we do about this galus, this exile, this perilous, dangerous exile that we're in? The Nesiv Shalom quotes the famous Gemara that says our second Beis HaMikdash, our second temple, was destroyed because of sinas chinam, because of baseless hatred. He describes how the Talmud says that the first Beis HaMikdash, the first temple, was destroyed because of idolatry, sexual immorality, and murder. These are the most severe sins that a Jew can commit, that we are obligated to first give up our lives instead of violating these three sins. And it would emerge that baseless hatred is somehow equal to the combination of idolatry, murder, and sexual immorality. If it took those three to destroy the first temple, and it took baseless hatred to destroy the second temple, the question is, how does it all add up? Especially given the fact that the penalty for committing those first three is much more severe than the penalty for the violation of hating a Jew in your heart. The Torah says you're not allowed to hate a Jew in your heart. And that's a mitzvah, that's an obligation for us. But it seems to be more severe. If a person would commit one of those other three sins, the punishment is significantly worse. How does it all make sense? And the Shlomo Rebbe, the Nesiv Shalom, describes that for a Jew, we don't view ourselves as a servant of the king. A servant of the king will often base his decisions and calculate his actions based on what the consequences are. If I do X, I will be rewarded as such. And if I don't do Y, I don't do something, I will be punished accordingly. But we view ourselves primarily as children of the king. We are God's precious children. And the Shlomo Rebbe teaches us that the calculus of a child is, will this action that I'm about to do bring pain or joy to my Father? When understood as such, we can now fathom and understand how severe baseless hatred is. Yes, it is true that the punishment of idolatry, murder, and immorality is more severe than the punishment of baseless hatred. But what causes more anguish to our Father? When we hate each other, and bicker with each other, and needlessly fight with each other. That's what causes pain. All of those of us who are blessed to be parents know that there's no greater nachas, there's no greater joy than watching our children play together in harmony, getting along, supporting each other. When my son, my 2-year-old Chaim, goes to his sister Devorah, who's 4 years old, for a hug, or when his older sibling will read him a book, us parents get immense pleasure and joy from this. Indeed, it is a joy so profound, it's hard to put into words. It's difficult to imagine a more elating feeling. And God forbid when they fight, it's awful. Certainly even when they fight as small children. And God forbid, I imagine when children grow up and become adults and fight. If they bicker with each other, the pain for the parents would be immense. When we fight with each other, the Tsar Hashchina, as the Kabbalah says, God's pain, so to speak, is immense. And that is why, as the Talmud tells us explicitly, the Second Temple was destroyed because of sinas chinam, baseless hatred. That is the reason that we are here in Galus, in exile today. That is why we cannot feel safe anywhere on planet Earth. That is why little Ariel Bibas celebrated his 5th birthday in captivity in the year 2024. Because at the end of the day, we are in Galus. We're in exile. So let us take upon ourselves and mean it with the depths of our beings to love our fellow Jews, to not judge or hate our fellow Jews. Yes, we might think that they are wrong about some particular issue. Yes, we might think it is foolish how they are choosing to vote in the upcoming election. Yes, maybe they did something offensive to us. We didn't get that invitation to the wedding we thought we'd get. We didn't get the bar mitzvah invitation. Someone forgot to write us a thank you letter. But the Jewish people cannot tolerate or afford for us to bear resentment in our heart. So if we cannot do it for the person who offends us, and we cannot do it for ourselves, maybe we can do it for our entire nation, whose very well-being depends upon it.